We are back with another Book Wizards. For this session, we are reading the first book in the Notebook of Doom series. And this first book is called Rise of the Balloon Goons. Some pretty weird, pretty creepy things are going on in the town of Stermont, and our hero Alexander, I bet, is going to get to the bottom of it. But first, he's just trying to survive his first day of school. So, let's pick up where we left off. Alexander has just been attacked by the Balloon Goons and has run inside the school for safety. Chapter 5. A Ton of Bricks. Alexander stood inside, catching his breath. The school was perfectly quiet, and all the lights were off. Daylight came in through the door behind Alexander, casting long shadows down the hallway. "Hello?" he called out. "Hello?" said his echo. Alexander clutched the straps on his backpack and started down the dim hallway. He passed several classrooms, all empty. "Anyone there?" Alexander tripped over something brown with white stitches. A flat football? He thought. Crash! Bash! Crash! Smash! A brick wall collapsed in front of him. A cloud of dust filled the passage, covering Alexander like a powdered donut. Alexander looked through the broken wall and saw a giant yellow claw. A wrecking crane. He had to get out of there. He climbed over the smashed bricks, which was tricky with just one shoe. Then he spotted something rectangular in the rubble, wrapped in a dusty scarf. Alexander unwrapped the object. It was an old notebook. SMP Doom. Initials. What could SMP stand for? It's got a skull on the cover. That's pretty neat. The first page is ripped out. Probably nothing important. And the last few pages are still blank. Unfinished? He flipped to a page in the middle. Playing Mantis, a huge green bug monster, about as tall as a giraffe, minus the neck. Habitat, all playgrounds, at schools, public parks, etc. Diet, regular-sized bugs, they spit out the shells. Behavior, these giant bugs love playground equipment, but they play too rough. If you notice a dent in the slide or see a swing with one chain shorter than the other, then there's likely a mantis nearby. Warning, the only way to avoid a playing mantis is to sit quietly against the wall during recess. Alexander shivered. He thumbed through the book and saw page after page of monster drawings. "Hey!" a voice shouted from down the hall. Alexander stuffed the notebook into his backpack. A woman was storming towards Alexander. She wore a gray shirt, gray pants, gray shoes, and gray glasses. Her hair was in a long braid, coiled on top of her head like a snake. "Why are you playing in a construction site?" she demanded. "I wasn't playing. This is my school. I'm a new kid, but nobody was here, and then the wall crashed, and then this school was closed to deal with..." The woman looked at Alexander. "Well, this is a dangerous building," she continued. "Even a new kid should have been able to read the warning sign out front." "Do you mean the big pardon our dust balloons?" "Balloons?" asked the woman. "No, there's a big danger, keep out sign, Alexander." Alexander blinked. "How did you know my name?" The woman smiled. Well, actually, she didn't smile, she just frowned less. "We've been expecting you, only we expected you at the right building, not the one being torn down." Alexander pulled out his map. "But it says here..." The woman snatched the map away. "This placemat is outdated. We've moved the school while they finish construction." She reached into the coils of her braid and pulled out a marker. "You're here," she said, circling the school, "and your new school is here." Ignoring the maze, she drew a line that cut through someone's backyard and a funeral home, ending at Sturmont General Hospital. She handed the map to Alexander. "Now get to school before your principal gets angry." "My principal?" asked Alexander. The woman knelt down. Her ID badge dangled before Alexander's eyes. Sturmont Elementary, Miss Vanderpants, principal. Miss Vanderpants waved for Alexander to get moving, so he did. Chapter 6. Going Down. Alexander looked up at the hospital. Right away he noticed how this Sturmont Elementary was better than the last one. Number 1, the lights were on. Number 2, it hadn't been knocked over by bulldozers. A man sat at the front desk, writing on a clipboard. He had frizzy white hair that stood straight up. Alexander read the nameplate on the desk. Mr. Horsley, secretary. "Excuse me," said Alexander. "Eep!" Mr. Horsley said. "Oh, you scared me." "Sorry," said Alexander. I'm new here, and oh, you must be Alexander." Mr. Horsley checked his clipboard. "Well, look at that. Happy sort of birthday." He checked his watch. His eyebrows shot up. "You're late. And filthy. And why are you only wearing one shoe?" "Sturmont Elementary students must wear both shoes at all times. School policy," said Mr. Horsley. He pulled out a pair of green galoshes out of the lost and found. "Quick, put these on before the principal sees you." Alexander took the galoshes. They looked like little froggies. "I can't wear these," he said. "Miss Vanderpants will flip if she sees a sock-footed student," said Mr. Horsley. Alexander made a sour face and just pulled the left galosh over his sock. "Perfect. Now let's find your class," said Mr. Horsley, checking his clipboard. "Sixth graders are in the emergency room. Kindergartners are in brain surgery. Ah, here you are." He pointed to the elevators. "Press M to get to your classroom." Alexander stepped into the elevator and pressed M. The elevator went down several floors and then opened. Alexander read the sign on the wall. Morgue. Morgue, thought Alexander, stepping out of the elevator. But that's where hospitals keep dead bodies. Chapter 7. The morgue, the merrier. Alexander tugged open the big metal door and peeked into a cold, windowless room. The walls were lined with little square doors. Most of the doors were open, with long metal slabs sticking out like tables. Alexander's new classmates were using these slabs as desks. The class grew silent as Alexander stepped into the room. "Who dares enter the forbidden chamber?" boomed a loud voice. One of the square doors in the back of the room shuddered and then burst open. "Ah!" Alexander screamed. A grinning man had popped out of the hatch. "I'm just kidding. Welcome, I'm Mr. Plunkett." He wore a pink and orange flowery shirt, green pants, and purple shoes. Mr. Plunkett wrote Alexander Bop on the board. Then he plopped a pointy hat onto Alexander's head. "Why don't you introduce yourself?" Hi, I'm new, and it's great to meet you, and my dad is a dentist, and we just moved to Sturmont yesterday, and Alexander said way too fast. The classroom door swung open with a big jerk. Rip Bronkowski barged into the room. "Who's the weenie?" Rip asked, staring at Alexander. "Now, Rip," said Mr. Plunkett, "is it a good idea to call someone a weenie?" Mr. Plunkett turned to the class. "Remember what we talked about in our writing unit. You can call anyone a weenie. Ugh, so boring." He winked at Alexander. "If you're going to give someone a nickname, make it count." Alexander's mouth dropped open. see. Mr. Plunkett studied Alexander. Notice his silly frog boot. This guy clearly loves slimy green things. He crossed out Alexander's name and wrote Salamander Snot beneath it. There, he said. The class broke into laughter. Alexander tore off his hat. Unbelievable, he snapped. Everybody stopped laughing. A lousy nickname already? This whole day has been a joke. Alexander gritted his teeth. I've been lost, yelled at, crushed by bricks, and attacked by monsters. He held up his hands like claws. Huge, ugly, terrible, walking balloon goons. Everyone gasped. Then they laughed even harder, except for a hoodie-wearing kid in the back row. He or she scribbled something in his or her notebook. Oh, Salamander, Mr. Plunkett said through tears of laughter. You are one funny fella. Alexander shook his head. Why did I just tell everyone about the Balloon Goons, he thought. Good thing I didn't mention the monster notebook. Speaking of funny, said Mr. Plunkett, I'd like to discuss a little prank I found on my seat. His eyebrows lowered. Mr. Plunkett slapped a deflated whoopee cushion on his desk. A flat whoopee cushion is no joke, he said. Next time, fill it with air. Ring! The class rushed past Alexander. Finally, lunch. This day is bound to get better, he thought. Right? Okay, I hope you've enjoyed that section of the first book, Notebook of Doom, Rise of the Balloon Goons. In our section, Alexander has uncovered something pretty neat, a notebook full of monsters, hopefully including the Balloon Goons. I want you, for your activity this week, to make up your own monster. It needs to have all of the things that would if it was in the notebook. Where it would live, what it would eat, how it would behave, and any special warnings that would be involved. Have fun creating your own monster, and I will see you next time for part 3. Bye.